What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the deep dive. I am Paul Wadlington coming to you with elite production values. You can tell who's visiting their families for the holidays. Ian, almost as an elite production value, slightly better. What's going on, man? How are we feeling? I've said that this victory is proof that there are different types of victory. This one, I celebrated, and then I just felt an overwhelming sense of relief. I didn't stay on the high.
I I think the main victory was not having an L to the new Big 12 champion Arizona State.
Yes.
Their particular fan base and the chorus of you ever seen that meme of the little guy in Dagestan? I can't remember his name. And everyone's like pointing at somebody and they're like, go like this. And he's like, yeah, I got it. I understand. That was everybody in the Big 12 to Arizona State. Like, go beat Big Bad Texas for us. We can't stand that they have scoreboard on us. And you can tell the extent of the disappointment from that area of the country.
Yes.
By how passionate they are about the targeting call that I don't really want to speak anymore on.
And yet you brought it up. It's so stupid. Hey, while we're contemplating things that are stupid, I want you to do something smart. I want you to subscribe to this channel, and I definitely want you to join us at Inside Texas. It's the best conversation for Texas sports. It's the best conversation for sports, period. Come find out. It's economical. It's fun. We've got a great community. Ian, we're going to try in pithy fashion to give a general breakdown of this game very quickly. Offense, defense, and special teams, which is almost impossible given the fact that we had 4 seasons in one day. This was many games in one, Ian. We saw Texas at their clutchiest best. We saw Texas at their very worst, and it all happened in the same game. So let's start with the offense, and I'll start off with the offensive line. I've had a chance to watch a little bit, and it was a pretty awful performance. And I think it was not just the offensive line, the players on the field, but frankly, the coaches. Arizona State coming in is a slanting defense, and they play your keys and they overplay your tendencies, and they like to involve their safeties in the run game. They like to involve their nickel in the run game, as we learned. And if you do something that they think is predictable, they put all their chips on the table and attack it to inflict a negative. They don't play sort of, well, they might play action this, they might play action from the 2-yard line to Jarrett Gibson and throw it down the field. Let's not blitz our nickel. It's no, let's blitz our nickel because we think Texas is going to do exactly what they're saying they're going to do, and we're going to get a safety out of it. And we saw that repeatedly. That said, some of the players in the field didn't play well, and they acted completely confused and surprised that Arizona State likes to slant their defensive line, that they have a lot of movement, that these guys try hard, play hard, pursue. I was not impressed by the performance that I saw. DJ Campbell, Cole Hudson played really poorly. Gooseby played pretty poorly outside of pass pro. In terms of run blocking, really bad effort, bad pad level, bad feet, bad aggressiveness, and frankly, confusion. It seems that Arizona State likes to slant and play your keys.
Going into the game, we both knew that was going to happen. And I think we both anticipated Texas would have pretty good counters.
We thought they'd build in some counters to the game plan, and they weren't in the game plan.
I thought in particular it was like, hey, this is a game where you hit Jaden Blue on a crease where they guess wrong.
Yeah.
You bury them with a couple long Jaden Blue runs, and then they are just cooked for the rest of the game, and it's over. And they had some other things like that did hit that we'll talk about later. But in the run game, that was not there. Blue got only 4 carries. He got like 0 yards, I think. Trey Weisner is just not the guy that's going to punish this style. Because if it's not there where it's supposed to be, he's not going to make something happen out of nothing, really. He's very good at executing the basics. And he has had some maximization at times this year, late in the year, as he's gotten better and better at the reads of like outside zone. But he's not gonna make chicken salad like Bijan could do. Very few backs can really, right?
Yeah, I don't want to divert us yet to the defense, but very interesting contrast between what Arizona State did to us by formation and by tinkering with their motions and splits and things like that to get leverage for their running game. Very interesting contrast in terms of adjustment, both pre and during the game, in that regard from the running game. You know, at some point, I didn't think we'd ever like pound them running the ball because we'd lost the thread. But I thought at some point we were just going to try to run it downhill when we do run and try to get positive yards, right? Or at least set up some of our inside zone play action combos where, those safeties were coming down hard. And, there were opportunities to exploit that, which we did later in the game in a very clutch fashion. So let's talk about Quinn Ewers.
Almost in a disastrous fashion.
Yes.
Leading up, I think, wasn't it? I want to say it was leading up to the 4th and 13. Or no, it was leading up to one of the shanked field goals. It was like, look, just run the ball, center the ball, run clock, and kick the field goal, and we're good. And they threw 2 straight incomplete passes.
We had a negative run on the outside zone.
And at least one of the passes was an RPO.
Yeah.
Where there's like, now we're gonna punish them for these overplays and throw the RPO, and it's incomplete, of course.
I felt like our staff had a good Christmas. I'll just leave it at that. Probably different level of preparation and intensity for Ohio State. That was a good wake-up call. Let's talk about Quinn Ewers. 4 seasons in one day. We had Quinn come out 2 of 2 for 77 yards, looking like $1 million, touchdown. We think, oh wow, we know where this game is going, right? And then a bit of an interlude in performance, partly because he didn't touch the ball, in fairness.
Yeah.
He arm punted some open post routes, one which led to an interception, one which fortunately they did a pass interference. May not have been necessary that PI had the guy just turned around. But
yeah, I noticed on the replay, I watched the replay like 3 times and you couldn't see the ball.
Yeah. It was not on the screen. So thank God. But really struggled with rhythm. That had to do with a number of things, like not being able to touch the ball, the running game being inefficient. But the end of the game, specifically that 4th quarter, Quinn Ewers had 2 drives to get us potential game-winning field goals that we shank. And then the overtime, golden 4th and 13 conversion. A great throw to Gunnar Helm up the seam that ESPN only let me see half of. And then, of course, the 2-point conversion. Boom, boom, boom. Turned it on, won the game, go home, Arizona State. So, in a way, one of the greatest performances by Quinn Ewers ever. There was about 58 minutes in between where it was not. How do we make sense of this? Like, how do you give Quinn Ewers a grade for this game? It's crazy.
Do you know what it was? It was almost the exact same as that brutal loss at USC with freshman Sam Ehlinger in his second ever start, where Sam Ehlinger was like Sam Levitt, like weak numbers, but just gritted Texas to a chance in overtime. And then right before the half and right before the end of the game, Sam Darnold had
drives.
They had a drive in like 40 seconds, and then they had a drive in like 28 seconds, something ridiculous. 14 points.
And our D had otherwise been great, if I recall.
Yeah.
I absolutely remember that. That was actually a good USC team too. What a strange performance, but what an amazing thing to come through like that. If you're a big believer in momentum, and I'm a partial believer in momentum, all the momentum of the game was against us. We'd blown 2 field goals consecutively. Arizona State scores a touchdown on their first possession in the overtime. I mean, this thing's going to be over, man. And Quinn Ewers says, it's actually not over. We're actually going to win the game. Boom, boom, boom. Gone. Pretty clutch, pretty amazing. It's just it's a great performance, and Texas is in the Final Four because of it.
He knew, apparently Gunnar Helm was saying that Quinn Ewers was calming them all down in the huddle at the end of the game. and just leading. But I'll tell you what, I mean, it's obvious from watching, Quinn Ewers knew exactly what was going on, exactly what he needed to do, and where the ball needed to be. And when a quarterback plays like that with protection, with the arm talent that Quinn Ewers has, they're going to torch you.
That little cross linebacker blitz they had tormented us with twice earlier in the game, getting basically cheap sacks just because we didn't have good recognition on it.
Yeah.
And they brought it again. They brought it to 0. Quinn basically changed the play call to max pro. Offensive line had perfect protection, and Golden got open. I mean, he had a good 2 steps on that guy, but Quinn had to make that throw. And in that moment, that's not an easy throw. I don't care, that's not a layup at practice. And he did it. So very impressive. Hey, Matthew Golden, huge game. I mean, talk about a guy who carried the passing offense. 149 yards receiving, touchdown, 7 catches, very strong hands, repeatedly came up clutch in some big moments. Clearly our number one guy, and he's been for a while. With Bond now, I guess he's a decoy. I don't know what the deal is with him. He's a wooden duck sitting out on a pond. But what do we make of our receiver core? Do we have enough options to threaten Ohio State? Ian says yes, resoundingly yes.
Man. I mean, you just hope that Golden can get open on those guys.
Yeah, and home.
Helm, man. I think Ohio State's linebackers are exploitable in the run game.
Yeah.
One of them is an enormous converted safety, Sonny Styles, and the other one is the Mike, so he's a little easier to protect. They're actually pretty athletic and mobile in space at linebacker. And a lot of times they just blitz them anyway and play man coverage with their loaded NFL-rich secondary.
Well,
it's not a good matchup.
Jim Knowles is watching Arizona State film, drooling. I mean, because Knowles really loves those blitzes. He loves those replacement blitzes. He loves the crosser, the linebacker blitz that he tortured poor Indiana with. Unless we fix some stuff quick and find some running game to make them honest on that kind of stuff and punish them, it's going to be tough sledding in the Cotton Bowl. However, before we talk about the Texas defense, I want to talk about a guy that we all need to know. It's never tough sledding. It's an easy run right down the green slope. Gabe Winslow. Give him a call, 832-557-1095. The best damn mortgage guy in the great state of Texas. And hey, if you're not in Texas, you can still call him. 1, he may be able to do your loan because he's licensed in other states. 2, he'll just help you out because he's a mensch. He's a freaking cool guy, Ian. So if you're in Rhode Island and he's not licensed there and he's never going to get licensed there, you can still call him. He'll help you plot against the mortgage guys that you're working getting bids from, and he'll tell you the things to say, the things to do to get the best rate, just because he's a cool guy. So that's the kind of service I want. I want a dude that's going to help out Texans, even if it doesn't line his pocket. Give this guy a call. This is the kind of guy you want to do business with. 832-557-1095. All right. Texas defense. Down to down, the Texas defense was good. On several key leverage downs, the Texas defense was bad. What do we make of this? If mixed performance is the theme of this deep dive, what do we make of the Texas defense that played 98 plays on Wednesday?
I don't know that I really have any major complaints, honestly. I don't know if they had the best answers for 4x0 unbalanced sets.
I didn't like our light boxes or the deep backers that basically was conceding rushing yards and some of those. I didn't like that.
That's my number one.
Yeah.
I think the 4th and 2 Scatteraboo throw, I think maybe one guy didn't play that particularly well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody else, I don't blame you. It's like 4th and 2, they pitch it to Scatteraboo.
Yeah, your safety's coming up. The corner's got to know you've got the receiver. That's your job.
Yeah, I feel like that they beat Texas on 2 high leverage plays where they did the thing that you concede. Scatterboo's going to throw a post
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to throw a fade to Scadaboo down the sideline. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, some of the plays were just, we're going to do the thing, and huge credit to the Arizona State coaches. We're here to win the game.
Yes.
And if these things go wrong, we're going to get blown out by Texas.
Yes.
And I know some of you listening are saying, well, the game went to overtime. There was no threat of that. There was a threat of that.
A huge threat.
When you go for it on 4th down with a fake punt from your 25, is that where they were?
Yeah.
And that doesn't convert, your defensive lineman drops the ball. Texas goes in up 24-3 at halftime.
Yeah.
And the game, I'm sorry. And then the announcers are chiding you. Kenny Dillingham has to have composure there, right? And similar thing with the Scadaboo. Oh, you've got the best running back in the country, and you throw a halfback pass, easily intercepted by Manny Muhammad. He runs it back first, pick 6. I mean, that happened repeatedly throughout this game. And Arizona State just said, don't care. We're trying to win. We're not trying to lose in Arizona State's plucky fashion. And I just think I hugely admire that in a coach.
I think, I don't know about Texas's players, but Texas's fans definitely took the wrong lesson from all the chirping that Arizona State was doing.
Yeah, it was confidence. It was real.
It was like they were psyching themselves up, like Brian Billick used to say, to go into the lion's den with a spear, just screaming and yelling.
Yeah.
And that's what they were doing. And it was just like, oh, didn't they learn their lesson from Iowa State? You don't talk trash about Texas. It's like that's loser mentality.
Well, so I think the difference is Arizona State has a very different mindset and culture. I think they have some unique players in that regard. Yeah. Also, I think the Big 12, when they do it, I mean, Arizona State's a new Big 12 entree. They don't have any history with Texas. And so when the other Big 12 teams would chirp, it really stems from sort of insecurity, right? Yeah. Arizona State's chirping was like, we're going to destroy this team. Like, that's what they believed. And, you and I had talked about, I think, irrational confidence is very powerful in sports, especially college sports. And you have to live in a reality where you think that you can do that. And damn sure if they didn't almost pull it off. So, props to them. But, nonetheless, going home. Hey, let's talk about the defense. I thought Anthony Hill had a really tough game, and that surprised me. I'm not sure if it was alignments, if it was discomfort with what he was seeing. But as you said, those 4x0, 4 wide receivers, Cam's the single setback. It really messed with us. It messed with our alignments, and PK didn't know how to handle it because he seemed very concerned about, first of all, having 2 deep safeties most times. We crept up Taff a few times, but also the screen game. He was very concerned about leveraging that on the corners. Uh-huh. And I think kind of lost the plot at times of like, hey, they're not looking to screen us right now. They're looking to hand the ball to their best player.
Yeah. I compared it to a high school offense before the game.
Yeah.
I had a specific one in mind that I just watched a few weeks ago from Brenham. And Brenham freaking did the exact same thing to beat Liberty Hill. They got in 4x0 a bunch of times.
And then ran the ball.
And they would do that so that they could get like the 150-pound Liberty Hill safety that couldn't tackle as well into an important run fit position and then run the ball inside. And that's exactly what Arizona State did. Texas doesn't have a 150-pound safety who can't tackle, but we knew going in that like Makuba and Taft played their butts off, and they both had some big plays. But they're both like 185, 190 pounds. And those guys tackling Scadaboo, if he's in space and can lunge forward, you're going to wear down trying to do that.
Do you know how many missed tackles we had?
No. Was it like 20?
21.
That was a pretty good guess.
That's a very good guess. That was inflated somewhat by the number of plays. If Arizona State runs 65 plays, we'd have 14 missed tackles. That's still too many, right? And part of the reason they ran 98 plays, I know people blame the offense, and I get it, absolutely. 3 and outs don't help your cause.
Yeah.
Returning a punt for a touchdown actually doesn't help your cause, right?
Yeah.
In a sense. But one of the reasons that they were on the field a lot is missed tackles. And one of the reasons they were on the field a lot was the fact that Arizona State had 29 first downs. They possessed the ball. And down to down, they weren't hurting us with explosives, except for those high leverage, crazy plays. But they kept moving the chains. And I thought that there were some moments where PK needed to take a note from the Arizona State staff and let slip the dogs of wars, of war, and try to inflict a big negative play and stop some of that. But
They did. They did at least catch a couple. There's like one of those unbalanced sets where they blitzed Barron off the edge.
yeah,
That's when teams play unbalanced like that. You have to A, know why they're doing it,
yes,
and then B, overplay the tendency. So like Texas had a very similar 4x0 set that we called the touchdown play under Tom Herman. And they would line up and they'd run tight zone with a bubble screen.
yep,
And that was almost they had like a few play actions, but that was almost the only. And what they would do is they would get like 3rd and 8, they'd hit a screen to Jordan Humphrey and get to 4th and 1, and then hurry up and then run that play real quick and run tight zone for 1 or 2 yards, and teams could never stop it. Or they get up to the goal line, race up and run that play. Then they faced Mike Gundy in 2019, who'd seen them do it a million times. And then as soon as they did that, Mike Gundy would have his defense auto check a 0 blitz and overload the spot where you would run the ball while covering the bubble screen. And then they just erased it on a couple big 4th downs. And we didn't have that in our back pocket for that play.
Agreed. Some individual defenders I thought played well, and I'll just call them out. You can comment on any. Vernon Broughton, I thought played well. Andrew Makuba had a very good game. Obviously, the key interception. He had he showed up on the edge a couple of times and blew guys up in unexpected ways, covered a lot of ground. David Benda had great snaps. I would have liked to seen more. Jelani McDonald played a bunch, as I expected he would, and he played pretty darn well for most of the game. And then I thought Barron and Moore really played well. Jahdae Barron had a great game. And then Trey Moore, relentless in his pass rush and pursuit. Levitt, I was trying to prepare everyone. Like, this guy is legit. He is a really good player that we're going to be hearing about for 2 more years. He was even faster and more elusive than I thought. And I'd already scouted him and was trying to warn people about it. But Trey Moore was dogged in his pursuit. and I mean, freaking Sam Levitt wore out our 2 deep on the defensive line, just running around. And he wasn't doing the characteristic "I'm running around redshirt freshman" ends with a tragic turnover. He was just running around trying to make something happen, and it would end, with an incompletion or a little jump off, or in one instance, a couple of great throws in the end zone. But I thought he balled out, and his stats won't reveal it because our DBs covered their receivers as we expected. But Trey Moore, Colin Simmons, they got a good cardio workout.
I thought, I think you're right that Trey Moore was dogged and played really hard. I thought Colin Simmons was maybe the defensive MVP, at least through 3 quarters. And they just could not handle him whatsoever.
No. He got a lot of hurries.
He had like Trey Moore got 2 sacks. Colin Simmons got like 12 incompletions.
Yeah. Well, and Colin Simmons, as you and I have observed before, he just racks up tackles being on a football field.
He's amazing.
Because he's so quick and he plays really hard. And I think that's the part that people underplay about Simmons is, he's real talented. Dude, he doesn't take plays off. He's not Jadeveon Clowney. Like, he doesn't take series off. He just goes. And then I actually thought he got worn out, to be honest.
Yeah, probably. I think at the end he was absent in the 4th quarter, which
I think he ended up with like 8 or 9 tackles, and they never really ran at him. He just sort of accumulates tackles being on the field.
A lesson for Colin Simmons: don't trash talk the other team's running back on Instagram at halftime.
He pulled a
Wait
Chris
till
Boyd.
wait till after the game
Yes.
and then do it.
Let me ask you: does he have a
Or
cell phone in the locker room, or is this a buddy of his?
I mean, I don't know. It was his account. I don't.
Can you time releases of messages on Instagram? Like, can you do a
This is-
delayed?
I'm as much of a boomer as you are when it comes to Instagram.
I have to put my limits somewhere. All right. Well, in any event, that's a real key takeaway this deep dive, Colin. No more halftime Instagramming, unless it's a hot chick and you're selling a multi-level marketing scheme.
Yeah, it was like he don't want no more. It was like Scattaboo pouting and frustrated on the sideline.
Apparently, Scattaboo wanted more.
Scattaboo was up for it.
All right, wild game. The Horns come out victorious. That's the main thing. Hey, second consecutive year, we're in the Final Four. But before we do a quick feel vibe check on Ohio State, who frankly looked like crap against Oregon. We're going to run through those guys. Let's talk about the Texas special teams. Hey, guess what, Ian? Another mixed bag in this game. Bolden finally gets to bring back a punt. Awesome job on that return. Great blocking as well. We also missed 2 field goals that would have been game winners. Had a fake punt completed on us again from deep in the enemy territory, like Georgia. And we had Maurice Blackwell somehow have a ball phase shift through his body and not contact him as he roughed the punter. So what grade do we assign special teams?
When the camera went, when I saw him just run free, and then the camera goes like this to follow the punt, and I was like, cameraman, you got to go back. That ball's like in the end zone. And then I saw it land, and I was like, where did it go?
I fully expected the camera to pan back. Yeah, I thought the camera was going to pan back, and Jahdae Barron was like celebrating in the end zone with the picked up ball, and that's not what happened.
No, it somehow didn't happen. You know, it's funny. It's like going in, we knew that they felt good on special teams. Like Eric was hearing that from the team.
Yeah.
They felt that they could make some plays. It felt like except for the coverage of the fake, it felt like the coverage and the returns that have been middling or solid all year went up a level and got back to peak level.
Yes.
And then the specialists that have been pretty meh or bad all year just tanked, and the bottom fell out. The punting wasn't great either. It wasn't as bad as the kicking, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, Kern's lack of feel for when to like try to pin someone versus boom. Like, we're not trying to boom it out the end zone if we're kicking near at the 45, man. That's not the goal.
Yeah, every time. So I feel like the only time he booms the ball is when you shouldn't.
Yes. And then he tries to put touch on it when it's like, hey, we need some distance here. We're trying to get field.
Get just as far back as you can, and it's like
on Auburn, I must
I'm gonna cop and corner them on our own 45.
That's right. And I got Auburn. I got to confess, Ian, I didn't think he'd make either field goal.
He is deteriorated. I got a tip from somebody after the last game that the holder wasn't holding the ball. He was holding the ball in a way that was going to result in him pulling it left every time.
Really?
Yeah, we tried to ladder it up. I don't know if it made it up to the coaches or not. And that wasn't really, I don't know if the holds were good or not in this game, but it wasn't just going left. It was going just not between the two poles.
I know very little about kicking, but when the ball starts fluttering on you, you're not getting a good kick. You're not booming it. You're not hitting it authoritatively through the spot. That's what happens. I mean, there's no wind in the dome. So when the ball flutters on you and hits the goalpost, you're not hitting it authoritatively with confidence to a line at a point. And I don't know how to coach them. I don't think most coaches know how to coach them. Kickers kind of do their own thing during practice, and you just hope that they're good. That's kind of what it boils down to.
There's 2 amazing things they caught on the broadcast for anybody if you go back. One is that
Arizona State girls.
One is that before the second kick, he's like lining it up, and then these 2 like Arizona State girls in like training clothes like just go out in front of him to get across to the to the locker room or whatever they were doing, and that was hilarious. And then the other one was that when they show Sark, he goes up to Sideshow Bert before the second kick, and he's like got a big smile. He's like your dad, and he's about to talk you through this big play, and
Yeah.
he's like, you're gonna field the bunt perfectly. It's gonna go great, or the grounder, or whatever. And then he like pumps him up, and Sideshow's like, yeah, I got it. And then it shows Sark go back to the sideline,
His death.
and he looks over at the thing, and he just like, it was so funny.
Stark didn't believe a word he said. It's so funny you noticed that. I called out the same thing on our live right after the game. It was like, Bert, you got this. Come on, buddy, you got it. We all believe in you. We know what you're going to do. You're about to win. You're about to win this game for us. And the minute he walked off, Sark's face just went white.
I used to occasionally coach people in not that high stress situation, but some high pressure performance things. And I would always go the exact opposite route.
No one thinks you can do this.
Yeah, well, I would do the band of brothers. Like, you're already dead. You're going to screw up. The only way to get through this is to accept your fate.
Yeah.
Or I would make a joke like you better not screw this up too bad, or whatever.
That's good.
It works pretty well.
Well, I'm sure the 4-year-olds really benefited from that at the community center. All right. Hey, folks, this has been the deep dive. It's been a cursory yet deep examination of this crazy game. Hey, the real takeaway, Texas Longhorns 39, Arizona State 31. We're 2 games from a national title. And we got the Ohio State Buckeyes. My vibe on this, Ian, is teams play really well and teams can play poorly, and you don't really know. There's some variation in college football, certainly. But also, I think the winner of this game, I think they're going to win it all.
I think the winner of this game might win the championship. I'll say that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Your little pause and your eyebrow raised. But hey, we're going to do plenty of a breakdown on Ohio State, and Ian and I are going to try to inject some confidence into our chances and talk about what we can do against the mighty Ohio State Buckeyes, who, unfortunately, were done a great favor by the Michigan Wolverines by getting humiliated. It has caused them to look within and realize that they've got the freakiest wide receiver in the country lined up out wide, and they might want to throw the ball to him. All right, Ian, thanks, buddy. Appreciate your insights. For Ian Boyd, I'm Paul Wadlington saying, hook 'em.